Greetings, Earthlings. Oz here, transmitting to you from a very blustery, kind of cloudy day here on planet Oz. And I have often wondered about the concept of resurrection. And of course, there is the famous biblical story, but you also find it in ancient Egypt and really pretty much anywhere where there were mystery schools and practices of this sort. Resurrection was practiced and written about, and then of course in pop culture we've still got it. Aslan resurrected, E.T. resurrected, and so. But none of these things really tell us like what are the mechanics of it? How does it work? Can we do it? Can any of us resurrect ourselves? And so I asked these questions and I got answers, and here's what it said. Now to do it, I don't know that this is the only way or even if this way works, but to go about it this way, as I understand it, you don't want to reach for the resurrection tome in your library or look for the resurrection spell, because resurrection, at least this way, it's not its own thing. It's not one thing, one skill, or one practice, so to speak. It's basically three things. So if you can do these three things, if you become a master, maybe, if you need to have a mastery of it in order to do this, then you would have to master these three things. And I say mastery because presumably if it didn't require an incredibly high level of skill that few people possess, we would probably see it going on all the time. So anyway, for what it's worth, mastery. The first thing you would have to master is astral projection. And this shouldn't really come as a huge surprise because people have traumatic experiences, and in the emergency ward at the hospital, they'll talk about how they had an out-of-body experience, and they were basically the physical vessel had become so compromised that it could no longer host the consciousness or the spiritual aspect, and so then the person is not local to the body anymore, and they're floating above and they're seeing the action go on as people are trying to revive them, and presumably this succeeds as they then come back and tell us the tale of what they saw. So the astral projection is basically the same thing, except it's done intentionally, sometimes through meditation or whatever, but same phenomena. You go into the same place, same experience of consciousness, and what all of these things seem to have in common, according to a general consensus of the reports, is that this is not easy to control. It's not easy to stabilize it. Many people claim to be able to enter these states, but being in control of it, stabilize it, certainly the person having the out-of-body experience at the hospital claims to often have little or no control whatsoever. So whatever is involved in gaining a mastery of the control of the astral projected state, that is something that you would need to have to pull this off, because you need to stay stable in this state for quite a while in order to affect step 2. And so the second thing that you need to have to pull off your own resurrection is healing. You need to be, don't know if there's orders of magnitude to the challenge of healing or if it's all in our head, but whatever that involves, I would think calling it a mastery would be fair, because you're not just healing an injury or an illness or something like that. You are actually you are healing a vessel that is so compromised it can't host a soul, and you are restoring it to a condition in which it can. So I'm just imagining, as healing goes, this has got to be kind of a massive challenge. So you you need to possess these healing capabilities, and so you need to stabilize your astral projected state. And so let's get up to speed here. Basically, the way that these things go numerically: first you astral project before the vessel is completely compromised. You stabilize outside of the vessel. The vessel then becomes compromised. It is then technically dead. And then from your astral projected stable state, using what you know of healing, you are able to restore the vessel back into a condition in which it can host the soul again. And then you're ready for the third step, which is a familiarity and an understanding and ability to execute a walk-in. So insert whatever Christopher Walken joke you want here. I always do. But the walk-in, WALK-IN, this is a concept discussed a lot regarding reincarnation. The Dolores Cannon material talks about it. And basically a walk-in is an incarnation in which you enter into an adult vessel. And the way that this is typically described, and in the Dolores Cannon material and Law of One, this is described where essentially one soul has decided it no longer wants to continue the work it's doing in the vessel it has. Meanwhile, another soul wants to do work in a vessel but does not want to incarnate in infancy and experience the whole growing up. Maybe this isn't always necessary for the work some desire to do, and therefore a switch of the souls can be arranged and occurs within the vessel. And so I know when people hear this, it's like it can sound super creepy and weird at first, but to the extent that it's described and talked about, it doesn't sound too common. In the Law of One, it was asked whether or not anyone we would know, someone famous, something like that, had been a walk-in, a vessel with a walk-in, and the name Abraham Lincoln was given as an example of somebody famous, somebody that we would all know, and somebody who we know the vessel, Abraham Lincoln, but in fact, in that incarnation, there were two different souls. In adulthood, there was a switch. So, don't know if that's true, but that's what it says in the Law of One. It's just shining some light around the concept of the walk-in. So why am I bringing this up? Because for following all of the other rules we're using here in this metaphysical understanding, the astral projection involves something called the silver cord. It could be a ray of light or a stream of energy or something like that, but the way people describe it, seeing it, the way it looks physically, it's a silver cord and it's connecting the consciousness to the vessel. So this, in theory, allows you to project to the ends of the universe, and then when you want to come back, you use the silver cord to do so. Or if somebody bumps and awakens your physical being in the 3D space, you will be called back through the silver cord and return. So that cord is always connected. But if we're talking about resurrection, then we can't have any technicalities where, oh, well, we thought it was a resurrection, but actually the person had astral projected, it was not a body thing, they came back or whatever. If it's a true resurrection, then we should be talking about a real, true severing of that silver cord, meaning that even that astral projected connection that would typically be there is broken because the vessel is compromised and can no longer host the soul. So the silver cord is severed, but once astral projected, once the healing is done, once the vessel is ready, the cord is not there. So it's not a matter of simply astraling yourself back in and waking up. It's actually more akin to a walk-in incarnation, in which the soul is then entering an adult vessel to be incarnate here, to do work. And it just so happens, in the case of resurrection, at least according to this model, it just so happens that you're walking in and incarnating into an adult vessel of which you happen to also have been incarnated in before, up until the point of death there. So yeah, basically there you have it. We can all do it. We just need to know these 3 simple things. Yes, the Grim Reaper doesn't want you to find out these 3 simple things. What are you, just these 3 simple hacks? Yeah, I know, easier said than done, right? But there you go. That's at least one way to do it. Godspeed.